Good morning, researchers. Hi, I am Tripta Bhattacharya, the presenting author of our research topic, a comparison study on characteristic behavior of hot rolled schemes of carbon steel and stainless steel under standard fire. The study was done taking assistance from my co-authors, Rubat Naomi, Mehdi Hassan, and under the guidance of Honorable Dr. Shaman Ahmed Sir. Here are some of the recently built steel structures which were done in the last few decades. It can be seen that there has been a gradual shift in construction materials from concrete structures towards steel structures all over the world. And for the purpose, two types of steels are mainly considered, carbon steel and stainless steel. The difference between them lies in their chemical composition, where one contains carbon and but no chromium, and the other contains chromium but no carbon. The life cycle cost of carbon steel is higher than stainless steel, though its initial cost is lower. So it is mainly used in steel product in construction. There are three types of stainless steel: austenitic, duplex, and ferritic. The difference between them lies in their structure, as shown in the figure. In our study, we will talk about different grades of each of these types. So let's dive into our structure. The use of steel in construction is becoming popular. However, the most important aspect of steel, which is its capacity to sustain load when it faces fire, that is the fire resistance characteristics such as fire rating, etc., are not permitted at this base. Addressing this research opportunity, we formulated a plan to evaluate the performance of different grades of stainless steel beams under standard fire using fire ratings as a parameter and compare the performance of stainless steel beams with that of carbon steel. It is to be noted that by fire rating, we mean the duration for which a beam can sustain load in fire without failure. Research methodology. Before moving to our findings, let's take a moment to understand the methods used in our research. For analyzing the behavior, we have taken two criteria: comparing the performance at same loading condition, changing the beam section, and comparing the performance at same section, changing the loading capacity. For analyzing this behavior, a finite element model was set up from which data was evaluated to get fire rating and failure criteria. The failure criteria was set by fixing a deflection amount by which was calculated using European standard EN 13631, beyond which the beam was sustained, termed as failed. In our study, we use 6 types of materials, including 1 grade of carbon steel, CS355, and 5 grades of austenitic, 5 grades of stainless steels. 3 beam sections were taken, and 3 loading capacities were applied to each of them. The finite element modeling was done using Abacus CAE version 6.14.4 for selecting element type C3D80, which is suitable for thermocouple displacement analysis. Modeling was done in 2 steps, loading and thermal step. In the loading step, at first the structure was analyzed and then fire load was applied on all 3 sides except the top surface using fire curve ISO 834 as firing temperature. The fire loads were applied using convection and radiation using the even appropriate coefficients. Again, the supporting conditions of the structures at the left support, there the translation at 3 direction was restrained, and at right support, translation about 2 direction were restrained. All the rotational degrees of freedoms were unrestrained. Moving on to parametric studies. For loading, we use 2-point loading at desired magnitude and the load was calculated using class 1 section of Eurocode. Since the characteristic materials of the different grades vary with that in temperature, we had to calculate the different mechanical and thermal properties of the materials and incorporate them in the model accordingly. Before conducting our parametric study, the finite element model was validated against the steel beam experimentally tested by M. Lokomovsky. Our finite element model showed a displacement of 146.6 millimeter at a time of 33.3 minutes. This matched the experimental value of 147 millimeter at the same time period. So the model was satisfactory. Moving on to the results. Let us first analyze the behavior of the materials for fixed loading in a fixed section. it is clear that except ferritic, all the other 4 grades of stainless steel outperformed carbon steel. There is a difference in performance between the austenitic steels, where one is almost 4 times of the carbon steel and the other performed, and the least one performed twice of that of carbon steel. The performance of duplex was in between austenitic and carbon steel. This behavior of the materials can be discussed from there. It can be explained from their chemical composition. We know that in stainless steel, there is the presence of chromium, nickel, and molybdenum in controlled manner, which is absent in carbon, so it performs better. The difference between the oxidative grades is that the least performance performing grade 1.4301, there was no molybdenum which was present in the other two. The difference between duplex and austenitic lies in the molybdenum content of each of the two, though their chemical compositions were same. In ferritic, there is almost no amount of nickel and molybdenum was fully absent. Okay, moving on to our first evaluation criteria. For austenitic 1.4571, analyzing the effect of change of beam section, it can be seen that at a given load capacity, the change in beam section had almost no effect in fire rating when the loading was constant. The pattern was repeated in all the sections and for all the materials, as the failure patterns were almost same. Okay, analyzing further evaluation criteria 2, that is the analyzing the effect of loading with at the same section, we can see that the fire rating of materials decreases with increase in load, and at higher loading capacity, the difference between stainless steel and carbon steel, and at higher loading capacity, the difference between stainless and carbon steel were almost low. Okay, summary of our results. So concluding remarks. From our evaluation criteria 1, we saw that change in beam profile had no effect in the fire rating of the materials. Evaluation criteria 2, we found that with change in load, the fire ratings decreases. In all the cases, stainless steel grades surpass carbon steel except ferritic grade. Austenitic grades were the best among the stainless steels. Austenitic grade 1.4571 was the best performance stainless steel. The performance of duplex was between austenitic and carbon, and ferritic was outperformed by carbon steel. Thank you for your patience. Any questions?